Okay, so I've got enough objects in there with materials assigned, and now I want to set up some lights to test out the render setup for my lighting. But before I can do that, I really need to put a ceiling in. And so I'm just going to quickly show you the drawing that you've been given with the section there showing the heights that we need for the ceiling. Now, I know you can probably use different heights. You'll need to base it on what you've decided for your design, but I'm just going to use the heights that we have here. And you can see here we've got the tenancy boundary with a ceiling that drops down a little bit, but then the ceiling height coming across there next to that boundary is 4,300, and then the other part where it drops down there is 3,900. So they're the two heights I'm going to use. Actually I'll start with the lower one, so the 3,900 one I'll do first. And and you can see that set back 3 metres from the tenancy boundary. So now in Revit, I'm going to go to the ground floor ceiling plan. So if you don't know, in Revit, below your floor plans, you should always have ceiling plans. And to see the ceiling, I'll just show you in section. So to see the ceiling, it's going to be up here. So it's closer to level 1, but it's not going to be visible in that floor plan. It's the ground floor ceiling plan that we need to work in. So that's the first step, making sure you've got the right ceiling plan. And then on the architecture tab, you can go to ceiling. And then you'll see it comes up with 2 options. You've got automatic ceiling and sketch ceiling. So that's the first decision you need to make. Usually when you make a ceiling, it's actually sketch ceiling that's probably the better option. Automatic ceilings only really work when you have enclosed rooms like I have here, and I don't really need ceilings for those 2 spaces anyway. So just remember, when you go to make a ceiling, normally you will need to choose that sketch ceiling option as the first step. Then you get options that are very similar to what you have when you make a floor. So in the draw panel there, I'm going to go to pick walls, the last option, and then I'm going to pick the inside face of all of the walls where I want this ceiling edge to follow. It should go around this little corner here. So if I pick this wall, you can see it's added in an edge. It's not in the right spot, but I'll live with that for now, that's fine. So I'm just going to continue around picking walls where it makes sense. But then remember here, up against the shop fronts, we need that 3 metre setback. So now I'm going to change to just draw lines. I'm not going to be too tricky here. I'm just going to use the line drawing tool and then just draw lines roughly where I think that 3 metre setback will be, and I'll show you how to check that in a second. So I'm just picking points to draw my lines, again very roughly in position, because you can then select the lines and afterwards change that to 3000. You can see there it's doing a pretty good job of picking up the things that I want to measure to. So then I need to make it a closed shape. Using trim to corner, I'm just going to pick the lines there where they aren't joined and just make sure each corner is connected all the way around. If you don't do that, Revit will let you know. When you click tick to finish, it will say that you don't have closed shapes. But notice I didn't worry about the height, and I can still do that now in properties. Over here you can see it has the height offset from the level. So you can put that in while you're drawing the lines, but it's fairly easy to do it after you've made the ceiling as well. So again, what was it, 3,900? So I can just just type that in now. And then I'm just going to show you in sections. So if you don't know, easy way of getting to your section view is to double click on the section arrowhead. And so you can see then the ceiling is floating above the space, 3,900 from the floor, but it's also dropping down below the next level. So it has a thickness, you see in there if you zoom in. Looking at the properties, it's a compound ceiling called plane. And if I go to edit type, you'll see the thickness there is 57 mil. But I'm going to click the edit button there, just like a floor or a wall. I can change the thickness. Here we've got a couple of layers, so I'll change the thickness of the 45 thick layer at the top to, let's make it a fair bit thicker than that, so maybe 150, something like that. Probably need to bring it up more later, but for now that'll be okay, just so you can see a new thickness. So I'll click OK and OK, and you can see now that's thicker. So you could even maybe just bring that up all the way to the level above, but it's not worth doing that until you've worked out the other heights. So I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And then I'm going to go and do another ceiling just to repeat the process. So back in the ground floor ceiling plan, I can see my ceiling. That's really important. If you can't see the ceiling, obviously you can't work on it, and sometimes you won't be able to. So I'll just show you, if you can't see things that you expect to see in a ceiling plan, there's an option. Here it's not necessary, but I just want to make sure you know it. In properties, you can scroll down and you'll see there's an option there called view range. And if you click edit, then you can adjust the depth of the view, which in the ceiling plan remember is reflected, so it's going up. And so if there are things above the ceiling, you'll often have, if you've got different things that you've modelled at different heights, things that are higher than this level. So a good option there, if it's not working for you, is just to set this to unlimited, and it'll see everything, and then the view depth as well, unlimited. So here, again, it's not going to make much difference because it's only single story, but when you're working on your own projects later, that often is going to help you. Here, if I click OK, again, won't make much difference. So, again, I can see my ceiling. And now I'm going to click on the ceiling tool again to make a new ceiling. It's again got the option of either automatic or sketch. So again, remember, sketch ceiling is the option you need to choose normally to draw your ceiling. Then I can use, I'll just keep it simple, and so I'm just going to use the line tool and trace the ceiling edge I made before. And then I can just trace around the walls. You don't have to use pick walls, you can just draw. And so here I'm just going to go up to the frame, I think, and I'll put a transom in. So in other words, I'll put a frame at the top of this curtain wall, which means it makes it easier actually to have the ceiling just follow that edge. And easy is good, so I'm just going to keep tracing that. And coming around here, that should leave me with no gaps. Come to the bottom, so that now again should be a closed shape, and I can finish it, and then in here in properties type in a height, which I think was 4,300. Yeah, I think that's right. So yeah, it says COS. Do you know what COS means? When you see that in a dimension? Exactly, yeah, check on site. Yeah, that's it. So when you see it, you can just use that dimension because I'm assuming you won't need to go and check anything on site. So that should make it easier. And then back into your section, we can see now it is at that height, but we've got a gap between the two ceilings because they aren't thick enough. So I might use the tape measure there and just measure between, also I'll just measure the gap actually. So from the top of this to the next one, what is it, about 200 and something, 238. So I'm going to select this ceiling, edit type, and this time I'll duplicate it, and I'll just call it plain pick. That'll do. I'm going to edit the structure and add 238 to that thickness. So what is it, 388. Okay, okay, and well, so I forgot to add the extra for this, so it's come up to the bottom, obviously, that's filled in the gap, but I want to make it thicker still. I want to add in the 150 thickness of this ceiling, so I'll just go back to edit type, edit the structure again, and add another 150 to that, so if I can test my maths, so what is it, 438, yeah. So it's 538, sorry. Okay, so there we are. Did I get, oh, my maths is off. So let's check that. Forgotten the thickness of something. What did I leave? 12 mil. Okay, oh yeah, so, yeah, of course. Okay, so this is 12 mil, so we've got it. So 550, makes it easy. Okay, so makes it a little bit neater. Later, you might even add in thickness to both of the ceilings just to fill in the gap to the level above. At this stage, though, that's optional. This is neat enough. So, very last thing I'll just show you there, if you don't want this gap, or sorry, this line between the two objects, good option there is to try join. Again, on the Modify tab, you just choose that Join Geometry button, and I'm going to click the two ceilings, and it'll make them look like they're one object. We've got a nice bulkhead now over the whole space. Back into a 3D view now though, and it's actually made it harder to work in because I can't see inside anymore. So this is where duplicating is going to help you. Exactly, yep, duplicate and hide. So yeah, if I'll duplicate this view and give it a better name, say 3D interior, and then using a combination of section boxes, don't forget about those. So? That's right, yeah, it is for services. So there, you could fill this in with a wall, but if you look at the section, you'll see that it actually does continue to the ceiling that goes over the common space. So that will be okay if you put a new ceiling in. And so later, yeah, you probably should put a ceiling outside as well. But I'll just leave it like this for now. Just remind you again, don't forget about section boxes. They can be really useful. But here, all I'm going to do is, like you're saying, hide. By selecting, you can easily hide in view. And I'll use category here to hide all the ceilings. But I've got the default view. It's good to leave that with the objects all showing. So you've got at least one view where you can see everything. Alrighty, so I'll give you a little while just to try and get a ceiling up and running, but before long I'll have to move on to light, which is really why I was showing you ceilings, so I'll do that shortly.